Hi ladies and gentlemen, Chris of the Polish Geek, and welcome to a new type of video, and this is opinion piece, because I'm gonna now be making those like a new series of videos called opinion piece, when I'm expressing a particular opinion on a certain subject, and it can be like when there is a controversy in a movie, it can be on this sort of controversy, or it can be like in a direction I think the story should go, etc, etc. It can range from various different subjects on the movies, either behind the scenes or in universe, all that stuff. Although it's certainly gonna be very much avoiding anything controversial like politics or anything like that. I'm just gonna stick with, unless of course it's related to the movie, then I might do a video on that, but unless it's related to the movie or a video game or a show, then, or maybe a book, then this is a subject I'm very much gonna avoid. But welcome to the first opinion piece video, and we're gonna be talking about some Star Wars, because yeah, I've been making lots of Star Wars videos on the channel. I haven't done one in a while, but this video is my opinion of why I think Darth Vader should have killed Ahsoka in Rebels. This is admittedly something I did already touch upon a little bit when I was doing the review of the Ahsoka episodes, but this time I'm gonna talk even more about it and why I feel this way. And remember, the purpose of this video is not to change your mind or anything, it's just to express my personal opinion of why I feel this way. But first, let's a little bit discuss the history of Ahsoka, because Ahsoka was an original character created for the Clone Wars TV show, and I really love the Clone Wars. I gave you the whole you should be watching treatment at this point, like a year and a half ago at this point. It's in the video description, I suggest you check it out, but I did a whole you should be watching for the Clone Wars because I really love that show, and Ahsoka Tano might actually be my very favorite character there. I really love Ahsoka. And then I also really loved Rebels, but then here is the thing. I think at this point she very much have outstayed her welcome. But before we get to it, let's talk a little bit about Disney Star Wars in general, and first the Clone Wars. Like the Clone Wars, they said, is an awesome show. I really love it, although I've actually binged that show by the time Disney has long acquired rights to Star Wars. So it was like after The Last Jedi, I was just hungry for some good Star Wars content, and I was often putting down Clone Wars for the longest time because of Resurrection of Darth Maul. But how wrong I was when I binged the whole show. But now let's a little bit talk about Disney Star Wars, because Disney and Kathleen Kennedy have objectively not been good to Star Wars. Like, it's clear that they don't care about making quality stories, just shoving their political agenda and all that. Like, they don't care about quality storytelling, and it's no wonder that so many people have gave up on Star Wars at this point. Like, I haven't touched a single episode of The Acolyte, and I'm really glad I didn't, or even a single episode of the Skeleton Crew for that matter, although I'm hearing from some people it's decent. I might give it a chance at some point, but I wouldn't be so, but I'm one of those who basically gave up on Star Wars at this point. And that's not to say that there haven't been quality projects under Disney, although they're good probably despite Kennedy and Disney, not because of it. Like Star Wars Rebels was awesome. I really love that show, and I think it's a worthy successor of the Clone Wars. Although, and I admit in the past I was to be on the train that would say David Filoni is the savior of Star Wars, but that's no, I very much don't believe that, and we'll get to it soon enough. But yep, the season 7 of the Clone Wars was super awesome, although that probably we would get much sooner if Disney never acquired rights of Star Wars, and the show would probably even be much longer then, so I guess that could be considered basically like old canon. And then, as I said, I love Star Wars Rebels, and I did really enjoy The Bad Batch a lot. Like the first season, it started a little bit like, wasn't a huge fan of the first season, but then season 2 and 3 were awesome, so yes. And I admit, I also used to be in the camp that really loved The Mandalorian, and I still think the first season is pretty good, of just like lone gunslinger and all that. And then I used to say like season 2 was so much better in every way, shape or form, but time hasn't been kind to it, and don't even get me started on season 3, even if I have been more positive about it than most people seem to be anyway. And then when I watched Ahsoka, that's when I finally realized the character have long outstayed her welcome. Like, as I just said, I used to be one of those that was saying that David Filoni is the savior of Star Wars, but it's certainly not the case. And it seems like he basically can't let go of the character of Ahsoka. And I say it again, as someone who loves Ahsoka, as someone whose character she was a favorite of in the Clone Wars, but she's long outstayed her welcome. She never had a right to survive till original trilogy, let alone live past the events of the original trilogy. It just doesn't make sense. Like, newsflash, George Lucas actually wanted to kill her off at Order 66. And, well, personally I think maybe that'll be a little bit too early for her to go down, but I think the most perfect ending for her to be killed by Darth Vader at the end of Twilight of the Apprentice. Because having Ahsoka be actually one of the original creators of the Rebels, of the Rebellion, that was actually a perfect character arc for her. I mean, like, she knew Anakin Skywalker, she was basically his apprentice, like a little sister to him, and all that, and she was in general a fantastic character in the Clone Wars, so yes, having an older Ahsoka be like one of the original creators of the Rebellion, that's actually a perfect character arc for her. But it doesn't mean she should live during the events of the original trilogy, it just doesn't make sense story-wise. Ahsoka is basically this like main character and best friend that's like everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It's like everybody knows her and no one knows her at the same time. And it's just like she appears everywhere. But the movies, I mean, granted, I mean, obviously, the movies were, when the first 6 movies released, obviously, she wasn't created as a character yet, and she was specifically conceived as a new character from the Clone Wars. Like, when you watch Revenge of the Sith, it's pretty obvious that she wasn't conceived as a character back then yet, so she's very much a retcon character, but at the end of the day, I think that she was very well implemented into the story and her inclusion, and she was overall a really fantastic character whose implementation in the story was pretty smart, pretty well written, and even if she again was a retcon character, it still very much overall contributed to the larger narrative of the prequel trilogy and the Clone Wars time period in general. And as I just said, George Lucas wanted to kill her off at Order 66, which is pretty understandable, because it kind of was the whole point, that all the Jedi were supposed to be killed except for Yoda and Obi-Wan, although that admittedly was also a problem of the previous expanded universe. Like, one of the major criticisms of the previous expanded universe was that it introduced way too many Order 66 survivors, but unfortunately it seems like Disney Star Wars have introduced even more, but that's ultimately a little bit of a different story. But yes, George Lucas wanted to kill off Ahsoka at Order 66, but David Filoni had plans for her, so he very much wanted to keep her alive, and which I actually liked. In that I had no problems with, because as I said, I thought she was still great in Rebels, and making her one of the original creators of the Rebellion I think is perfect for her. But at this point, as I said, it's like David Filoni can't just let go of her. It's like she's like this character that's like everywhere and nowhere at the same time, because really, she should have died in Rebels Twilight of the Apprentice, killed by her former master, Darth Vader, formerly known as Anakin Skywalker. Like, this would be such a perfect but also tragic ending to her character, but it would also very much further solidify Anakin's descent to the dark side of the Force. Like, as I said, Ahsoka never really had the right to live past the events of the original trilogy, or even during the events of the original trilogy. Like, it kind of defeats the whole point of Luke Skywalker being the last Jedi, and then it was his job to rebuild the Jedi Order, and sure, you can argue Ahsoka wasn't really a Jedi at this point, but she still very much was, just maybe not officially, but still very much in spirit, and it doesn't even make sense story-wise. Like, she was basically an apprentice and a little sister to his father. Like, it literally makes zero sense that she wouldn't partake in the training of Luke together with Obi-Wan and Yoda. And sure, I mean, obviously, she wasn't conceived as a character back then, but instead of just doing like more retcons and more retcons, sometimes it's just best to let characters go. Like, we get it, David Filoni. You created the character, awesome, and yeah, she was an awesome character, my favorite in the Clone Wars, but at this point, it's just time to let her go. Like it doesn't make sense for her story-wise to still be alive during the events of the original trilogy. And I love Ahsoka and Rebels as well, but at this point, it's just time to let the character go. Not that David Filoni will do it, but she has long outstayed her welcome at this point. Like, rebuilding the Jedi Order was supposed to be the job of Luke Skywalker and his job alone, and also by having Ahsoka be still alive during the events of the original trilogy and then having be most Star Wars works focus on her instead of the heroes of the original trilogy just completely also very much diminishes the heroes of the original trilogy, even though they were the ones that started Star Wars. Like, for example, fighting Grand Admiral Thrawn. I haven't even read the Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn, but like, fighting Grand Admiral Thrawn shouldn't be Ahsoka's job. It should be the job of the heroes of the original trilogy, like in the original books, which I haven't even read, but I also very much believe that. And not that there weren't other problems with the Ahsoka show, and there were plenty of others, but she has long outstayed her welcome at this point. And as I already been saying, by having her sacrifice herself for Ezra Bridger and then die at the hands of Vader in Twilight of the Apprentice, that would be such a perfect and tragic ending for her, being killed by the former master whom she trusted, who was like a big brother to her. And it would be so Shakespearean, but also it would also very much solidify Darth Vader's, Anakin Skywalker's descent into dark side as Darth Vader. Like it could basically be considered like a final test for him. Like, I mean, maybe not like official final test that has long already happened long ago in Revenge of the Sith, but more like his like mental spiritual test of his complete descent into the dark side by killing his former apprentice, was basically like a little sister to him. Not only that, but also it would make Vader's redemption and turn back to the light side even better and even more emotional. It would basically show how strong fatherly love is for his son, and it would also very much solidify Luke Skywalker as the ultimate hero of Star Wars that was able to redeem like one of the most evil Sith Lords in history and turn him back to the light side, all because he was his father. Like, yep. Ahsoka has long outstayed her welcome, and as I said, she should be killed by Vader in Rebels. And then I actually had a friend argue with me that such a large galaxy, not everyone has to meet Luke Skywalker. Well, yeah, but it doesn't make sense in Ahsoka's case. Like, as I said, not only she used to be an apprentice of his father, but she also was like one of the original creators of the rebellion, so story-wise it makes zero sense in her case, but this ultimately is why I believe Ahsoka should have died in Rebels. Like, George Lucas would probably kill her off, and that's what he wanted at Order 66, but I don't mind her in Rebels. Again, I think she was overall great in Rebels, but she has long outstayed her welcome, and she should simply be killed by Vader in Twilight of the Apprentice. As I said, not only to be perfect conclusion and tragic and Shakespearean to her character, but it will also very much solidifies Darth Vader's descent to the dark side, and also make his redemption even better and more emotional. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is my opinion. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Like, because again, the purpose of this video is not to force my opinion on you, just why I feel this way. But you can let me know in the comments, what do you think? And talk to you soon. Bye.